I used to think that if I were obedient enough, tried hard enough, stayed quiet enough, then one day they'd finally see me. I was wrong. The realization didn't hit like some cinematic twist. It came like a dull cut, slow, creeping. Every time I was pushed aside, every cold glance that treated me like I didn't exist, every hold on when I needed to speak, but Savannah had just texted. My name is Isabella Moore. I'm 23, born and raised in Peoria, Illinois, a small city quiet enough for everyone to know each other's business, but just polished enough to hide what really happens behind closed doors. I'm the eldest daughter of Raymond and Julia Moore. 2 years younger than me is my sister Savannah, the girl this town seems to adore, from the high school principal to the woman selling pies at the weekend market. Me, not so much. Since childhood, I learned to step back each time Savannah entered a room. No one told me to, it was just expected, silently enforced by every glance and every shrug from the people who were supposed to love us both. I remember my 16th birthday. I had worked at the bookstore down the block for 3 months, saving up to buy a pastel pink dress. I dreamed of a small backyard gathering, just a few close friends, some string lights, a homemade cake, and a night filled with laughter. The evening before, my mother sat at the dining table flipping through my guest list without even looking up. "We'll have to push your birthday back," she said casually, like asking if I preferred tea or coffee. I froze. "Savannah made the state volleyball team," she added. "Tomorrow's her first game." I opened my mouth to protest, but said nothing. Not because I agreed, because I knew it wouldn't matter. That party never happened. Instead, I sat in the bleachers wearing the dress I had longed for, watching my sister spike a volleyball while the crowd roared in celebration. No one asked if I was okay. When I graduated high school, I was the only student in my class to receive a full scholarship to the state university. I remember the moment my name was announced in the auditorium. There was a split second of silence, then applause. My hands trembled as I walked up. I scanned the rows of seats, searching for my parents' faces. Just then, my mom stood up, not to take a photo or cheer, but to show my dad her phone. "Savannah's been named head cheerleader," she shouted, as if we'd just won the lottery. The woman seated next to me glanced over, pity in her eyes. That night, I walked off the stage, holding a prestigious certificate, and the crushing sense that I was invisible in my own family. I wasn't lazy, I wasn't rebellious, I just wasn't Savannah. I was always the easy one, the mature one, the independent child, labels that sounded like compliments but served as permission for my parents to neglect me without guilt. Savannah once kicked through the bathroom door in a rage. "I was told to clean up because you're the older sister," set an example. She was suspended for vaping in the girls' bathroom. My mom gave me a lecture about the family's reputation while taking Savannah to a spa to decompress. Eventually, I stopped expecting anything. No birthday presents, no congratulations, no acknowledgement, just peace. Just not getting yelled at, just surviving each day without making anyone uncomfortable. I thought that was enough. Until I turned 23 and everything shattered over one text message. But I'll get to that part later. Before you understand why I walked away, why I left an envelope on the kitchen counter that sent my entire family into a meltdown, you need to know what led to that moment. No one explodes on a beautiful morning over something small. No one tallies every scar unless those scars were ignored for too long. I'd been silent nearly my entire life. But on my 23rd birthday, I chose to speak. That's the day I truly started living. I woke up on my birthday to the vibration of my phone under my pillow. No balloons, no cake, not a single birthday wish echoing from the hallway upstairs, where my mom usually brewed coffee and complained about the morning news. Just the cold glow of an old iPhone screen showing a message from a familiar number. "Sold your laptop. Savannah needs a new phone. Be grateful we still feed you." I stared at the screen. My chest tightened, pounding like someone had slammed a fist into my ribs. I rubbed my eyes, hoping I'd read it wrong. but it stayed there. Short, cruel, unapologetic. That laptop, bought with a year's worth of wages from the sandwich shop, held all my research, job applications, recommendation letters, and design files for an internship I was applying to in St. Paul. My hand shook as I opened the next message. Also, transfer $5,700 for her tuition by Friday. Or find somewhere else to stay. I sat up in the dark room, pain blooming from my temples down to my shoulders. Just yesterday, Savannah had shattered her fourth iPhone screen during a screaming match with her boyfriend. She sulked the whole evening, while my mother, who once scolded me for failing gym, wrapped her in comfort like she was the only one who'd ever suffered. I typed 2 words. Not happening. My father replied 6 seconds later. Then get out, you're cut off. My shift at the cafe started at 7:30 a.m. I stood behind the counter, timing the espresso shots to keep my hands steady. Wiping mugs, I caught myself touching the bare spot on my wrist where I used to wear the bracelet Mom gave me when I was 10. After one meltdown, I tucked it away in a box I never opened again. What I felt wasn't rage, it was cold. A creeping emptiness leaking from my chest to my stomach. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood just to keep my voice steady when someone ordered a non-fat, no-whip mocha. Lisa, the cafe manager, noticed my pale face. She didn't ask, just handed me a leftover pastry and said, "It's yours, birthday perks." My mother whispered in a whisper. When my shift ended, I stepped out into the harsh midday sun. I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Mom. 7 texts from Savannah. One of them made me stop in my tracks. "Are you so dramatic? It's just a laptop. The phone didn't even cost that much. I still have some of the money left." Dizziness hit as the full picture came into view. Dad sold my laptop for $1,200, bought Savannah a $700 phone, and handed her the leftover cash as a reward. I called. No answer. I called again. This time, Mom picked up with a sentence no one should ever hear on their birthday. "You're overreacting. That computer wasn't a part of your body. Why are you making a scene?" I held my breath. She went on. "Besides, you live here. Use our electricity, water, eat our food. You don't pay anything. We have a right to take a little, don't we?" After that, her voice blurred, like static behind a storm. I didn't go home that night. I drove to Harper's apartment, my only friend from high school, still around. She lived with her boyfriend, but when she saw my tear-streaked face at the door, she didn't ask a thing. She handed me a warm towel and leftovers. I told her everything. The texts, the tuition demand, how my parents talked about me like a bill that had overstayed its welcome. Harper snatched my phone. "They're stealing from their own child, Isabella. Do you hear yourself?" I nodded, but inside the anger had faded. All that was left was clarity. I couldn't go back. I stayed up all night. Harper slept on the couch so I could have the bed. I couldn't close my eyes. In my mind, a plan formed, one step at a time, like pieces finally snapping into place after years of chaos. If they'd chosen to make me invisible, then it was time to make sure they saw me more clearly than ever. And I wouldn't have to scream to do it. I just needed to leave behind the one thing they feared most, the truth. The next morning, before the sun rose, I went back to the house. Not to talk, not to beg, only to take back what was mine, and to leave something on the kitchen table. Something that when they opened it, no one in that house would ever say, I didn't matter, again. I returned home just past 3 a.m., when every window was dark except for one in the back corner, Savannah's room. She always left her lights on to keep a certain mood for her midnight live streams, even if she was just scrolling TikTok in perfectly pressed pajamas. I didn't knock. I used my own key, walked softly on the old wooden floor. Each creak under my shoes made me curse myself. But I kept going. My room was unchanged, except the closet was wide open. The dress shirts I'd saved for interviews were gone, drawers turned inside out, makeup scattered like someone had rifled through everything. In the corner, an empty perfume bottle. The one I bought with a student discount last month, now capless and useless. I opened my suitcase, scanned the room. Grabbed only the essentials: class materials, a copy of my resume, basic clothes, bank documents. At the bottom drawer, where I used to keep an old metal box, I had stored cash there since I was 18 after my dad made 3 surprise withdrawals from my account. The box was still there. I counted quickly: $3,200, hidden under crumpled receipts, along with 2 folded stacks of notes tracking every expense I'd covered since junior year. I didn't keep them for nostalgia. I kept them because deep down, I knew someday they'd be needed. That night wasn't just about packing. It was about peeling back the walls of memory, like stripping down an old house. Turns out I'd paid the July electric bill last year. The receipt bore my mom's signature, but my card covered the charge. The family internet, Savannah's name on the account, but my debit card handled the bills because you're working more, just front it for now and they'll pay you back. They never did. I still remember when Savannah dropped her phone in the pool on a vacation I wasn't invited to. My dad told me to spot her $400 because your mom's already stressed, don't make it worse. It all clicked, cash disappearing from my wallet, promises to repay, next paycheck, all gone like vapor. I placed my mom's old laptop on the kitchen table and typed each line for the first time without hiding a thing. This is what I've paid for since I was 16. Electricity, 9 months. Internet, TV, and Savannah's online class subscriptions, 3 semesters. Mom's supplements and dental bills. Car repair tickets for Dad, even though I've never been allowed to sit in that Ford. Total, over $25,000. I kept quiet, thinking family meant sacrifice. But when sacrifice becomes expectation, it stops being love. Don't contact me unless you're ready to face the truth. I printed 3 copies, one on the kitchen table, one in an envelope marked for attorney, one for myself. Harper opened the door when I returned, her eyes still foggy from sleep. She didn't ask anything, just took the suitcase from my hands and pulled me inside. We sat in the living room. She handed me a warm cup of tea. I finally spoke after 10 minutes of silence. I made a statement, all of it. I can't let them just wash their hands clean. Harper frowned. You mean a bank summary? Not just that. Screenshots of receipts, handwritten IOUs from Dad, even audio clips of Mom saying, "You cover it, we'll sort it later." I never deleted any of it. She was quiet, then nodded. I think you should go further. Don't just list it, don't just show proof. Let them face consequences. I looked at her. Her eyes didn't hold pity. They held respect. I told her things I once thought were minor. The prom dress Savannah borrowed and never returned. My textbooks torn apart. The camera Grandma gave me, used as a cosplay prop and broken. I used to think, it's okay, sisters share stuff, but the truth? I'd been treated like a bottomless vault for money, time, and silence. The next day, while Harper was at work, I sat alone with a borrowed laptop, listing everything I'd lost. Some could be measured in dollars, some couldn't. But I still wrote, because I needed to remember. From now on, no one would erase my pain by calling it family again. That afternoon, Savannah texted. First line, "Did you grab your stuff? I saw the empty suitcase. But the blue dress is still mine, okay?" I didn't reply. An hour later, Mom's crying, Dad's furious. What are you trying to do? I shut off the laptop. What I wanted wasn't an apology. I wanted them to see, and if they didn't want to, too bad. They couldn't look away anymore. At 2:18 a.m., I returned to house number 1472 at the end of Arlen Street. The air was colder than usual. Fog blanketed the front steps. The door was locked. I didn't knock. Still had my key. The living room was empty. Savannah's blanket still held the scent of overly sweet perfume. The cabinet door hung open, a cereal box tipped sideways. The air reeked of detachment. I placed the document folder on the kitchen table. No rush to open it, just stared at the kitchen, where I once cooked dinner for everyone after their award ceremonies. No one ever mentioned the food, but Savannah's photo with her cheer captain trophy hung proudly on the fridge. I sat down and went through the folder one last time. First stack, bank statements. Over 6 years of transactions highlighting unauthorized withdrawals from the savings account I opened junior year. $120, urgent plumbing fix. $200, Savannah's gown. Total, $8,347. Second, utility bills. Screenshots of 31 bills under mom's name, all paid with my card. Many covered after 3 a.m. shifts prompted by 1 day late and they'll cut power. 1 month, gas reached 275, though I wasn't home half the time due to internships. Third, handwritten IOU. The 3 notes from my dad, all ending with "will repay after payday." Never happened, included $600 for mom's dental work. Fourth, laptop proof of ownership. Receipt from Best Buy, warranty docs, insurance. Original price, $2,029 before tax. Current market comparison and photo of the laptop dad sold for $1,200 to a neighbor. Fifth, scholarship fund records. I found this 2 days ago while checking letters from my grandparents. One envelope from Grandma, sent when I turned 18, included a copy of a First Federal Bank savings account opened under my name and Savannah's, started by my grandparents when we were little. I was once told the money had vanished due to market turbulence, but the bank statements I pulled told a different story. Nearly the entire account had been drained by my parents over 3 years. Not for tuition, but for personal shopping, even a fully paid vacation to Miami, a trip I wasn't invited on. I clipped everything into a gray folder. On top, I placed a handwritten letter. This isn't a war, this is the truth. I'm not asking for love. It can't be bought. But I won't let my silence be exploited any longer. If the following amount is not repaid in full within 60 days from the date on this file, I will proceed with filing a formal lawsuit under Illinois state law on intra-family financial abuse. Attached documents include letter from attorney Bess Kimball, L&D law firm, police report filed with Peoria Police Department, case 87,429 FS. Full financial evidence organized chronologically. Any further contact with me must go through legal representation. At the bottom was the total amount, $25,830. My hands didn't shake, I didn't tear up. I just folded the letter, set it on top of the documents, and clipped them tight with a binder clip. Before leaving, I pulled a roll of tape from the drawer and attached a small yellow note to the cover. Read carefully, then sit with the silence. Harper was asleep when I returned. She lay on her side, the soft orange glow of the nightlight casting a gentle hue across her cheek. I didn't wake her, I just sat on the edge of the couch, opened my phone, and typed out everything I had done that night, like an internal report, to a self-addressed email archive. At 6:12 a.m., my phone buzzed, a message from Savannah. What is this? Mom and Dad are freaking out. Mom called you a traitor, and you listed every dollar like a police detective? I read it without replying. The next message came from my father, short, cold. Don't think threats make you smart. I have the right to do whatever I want with my kid. A minute later, an auto reply from Attorney Kimball's office confirmed receipt of the documents. I opened the window. The early air came rushing in, crisp like a fall morning in early October. On the quiet street below, a paperboy dropped rolls of news onto stone-paved paths. I exhaled. No more screaming in my mind. No more, why would they do this? I didn't need more understanding. I just needed them never to have the power to do it again. At 6:43 a.m., the phone began buzzing nonstop. 3 missed calls from Mom, 1 text from Dad in all caps. What are you doing? Your mom's been crying since 5 a.m. Then Savannah, just 3 words. You're serious, huh? I placed the phone face down on the table, but the buzzing persisted, like relentless knocking in the dark. Within the hour, the tone of the messages changed. We're family. Why are you making this a big deal? You know, everything we did was for you. I got up and poured more hot water into my tea. No rush to read the rest. Harper remained curled up on the couch like a child. I opened my laptop and checked the email from the law office. No new reply yet. But the documents had been formally accepted to proceed with the next step, issuing a legal notice for confrontation. By around 9, I received the one call I actually picked up. Isabella. Grandma Eleanor Moore's voice rang clear and commanding, despite being well past 70. I just spoke to your father. He's furious, but he couldn't hide anything. I stayed silent, waiting. That file you left hit him straight in the face, and he deserves it. My hand tightened on the table's edge. Since childhood, Grandma Eleanor had remained silent in every family storm, never taking sides, never interfering, just observing, as if time alone would decide who was right. But today, she didn't choose silence. I need to see you this afternoon, 4 o'clock. Don't say no. We sat across from each other in a small cafe in downtown Peoria, about a 15-minute walk from my university. She wore a brown fur coat, a gray felt hat, one hand resting on a polished wooden cane. Beside her sat an old leather briefcase, heavy with papers. I'm guessing you're not surprised to hear Savannah had her own scholarship fund? I didn't respond. What you didn't know is that fund is still intact. Time slowed. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock. Your grandfather and I opened 2 accounts when you and Savannah were born, one for each. Yours was kept confidential. We planned to give it to you once you turned 18. I nodded, eyes locked on my black coffee. Your father convinced us you weren't mature enough, said he should remain the overseer to avoid risks. I was foolish enough to believe him. I didn't need to ask the amount. I'd seen it. Printed the line that said $4,200 withdrawn to support Savannah's summer retake. Where are you siding with me now? She raised an eyebrow, then said gently, because for the first time in your life, you left them no place to hide. The next day, the local district court accepted my case for preliminary review. The main complaint: misappropriation of family trust funds and unauthorized use of personal assets. My legal representative filed an urgent hearing request, including detailed evidence of every illicit transaction. Defendants, Raymond Moore and Julia Moore, listed as financial guardians. My mother sent a 6-minute voice memo, tearfully explaining how she had borrowed temporarily to help Savannah through a hard time. She calls it a loan. My attorney responded with bank statement images showing in those 3 months alone, there were 4 transactions at luxury fashion retailers, 3 VIP concert tickets in Chicago, and 2 nights at a Grand Rapids hotel. Not a cent to any school. Family members began taking sides. Aunt Julie, Mom's sister, texted privately, saying she always felt something was off. Uncle Ken, Dad's brother, called Grandma Eleanor to verify what's going on. And Savannah? She stayed quiet for 3 days, then showed up unannounced at Harper's apartment one rainy evening. 3 knocks, then a voice softer than her usual sharpness. I didn't know. They never told me they used your money. I stood just inside, didn't answer. She continued, her voice softer. I thought I was being funded for my own scholarship. I didn't expect. Harper placed a hand on my shoulder. I turned away without answering the door, not out of resentment, but because at that moment I had no strength left to soothe someone else's guilt. The door between me and Savannah stayed shut, but the first court hearing was approaching, and this time the truth wouldn't be hidden behind tears or excuses. I was organizing documents for Monday morning's meeting with the lawyer when the doorbell rang, a long chime, then silence. I looked up from the screen, not immediately peeking through the blinds. I already had a feeling who was outside. The next knock was gentler. I opened the door. Savannah stood there without a coat, her once carefully curled hair now tangled from the wind. She held out a small envelope, eyes slightly puffy. I didn't come to cause trouble. I didn't invite her in. She stepped over the threshold anyway. I didn't stop her. She sat on the edge of the leather chair. Unlike before, no questions about the Wi-Fi, no fixing her hair, no glancing around like she was appraising everything. There's 800 in here. She pushed the envelope across the table. I just got a tax refund from my side job. That's what Dad said he used to buy me a phone. I didn't take it. They never told me anything, Isabella. I really thought it was a reward for midterm grades. They said I was the one with potential, the one worth investing in. I didn't know it was taken from you. Her voice trailed off. Savannah clenched her hands, nails digging into her palms. I still said nothing. She inhaled deeply. They always said you liked being independent, that you were strong, capable of handling anything. I just followed their plan. I closed the laptop and tilted my head slightly to see her more clearly. What plan? She pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, and handed it to me. A message thread between my mom and someone saved as Dad, not our father, but a scholarship broker. One snippet read, "Just transfer Savannah's scholarship file to the teaching college. Isabella won't object if she believes it's her duty. What about the rest? How much is reasonable so Isabella won't suspect anything? Don't tell her anything. Just let her keep working and stay quiet." I pushed the phone back. No need to read further. Savannah sat in silence for a long while, then spoke, barely audible. "I hate accounting. I hate marketing. I even hate law. I failed 3 schools because I never wanted to do any of it." I sat across from her. "So what do you want?" She looked up, eyes red. "Early childhood education." A pause. No sarcasm, no smile. I nodded. "Good." She looked confused. "Good? What does that mean?" "It means at least one person in this family is starting to live honestly." 2 days later, I got a letter from Peoria State College. My sister had enrolled in their early education program, not online, not under a family-funded scholarship. From her own account, I added Savannah back to my contacts. No nickname, just her name. Every Friday evening, she sends a short message, a journal entry, a note, sometimes a photo of her study desk. No asking, no begging. It's just sent, then silence. I don't reply to all of them, but I read everyone. One day, while I was watching a short clip of Savannah recording her practice kindergarten class, Harper commented, "She doesn't look like the person you told me about anymore." I didn't argue. Suppose what happened can't be erased, but it doesn't stop someone from changing if they truly want to. Just like I once thought I'd always be a shadow in that family. Not anymore. And maybe Savannah is finally learning to step out from the mold our parents built and locked her into. My aunt, Bethany, showed up just when I had nearly no options left. After learning about the documents and everything I had endured, she called without pretense. "Grab your suitcase and come over. The guest room's free, and tonight's dinner is that chicken stew you like." I didn't correct her that it used to be my favorite. Truth was, not much felt comforting anymore. But I went. Her house sits on the west side of Galesburg, quiet, with a backyard full of grass. She lives alone, teaches literature at a local high school. On her table sat an open book and a pair of cracked reading glasses. She didn't ask questions, didn't say much. "Stay as long as you want, but tomorrow morning, you're doing the dishes." 2 weeks later, I received a package from Mrs. Eleanor. Inside was my old laptop, surprisingly intact, along with a handwritten note. "Walter from next door saw the message your dad sent and returned it personally. I reimbursed him. Everything on it has been preserved." I turned it on and couldn't believe my eyes. All the files were still there. Thesis drafts, resume, interview prep, even a half-written scholarship letter. It felt like someone had handed me back a key that was stolen and thrown away. Harper continued to be a quiet but steady anchor. After her shift, she always texted, "Need anything for tomorrow? They're at the store." One night, while I was reorganizing job applications, she showed up with a tote bag. "For you, temporary loan." Inside was a new laptop, lighter, faster, equipped with design software I'd never been able to afford. "This job needs it, and you need better opportunities than that bakery gig." I stared at it for a moment. She didn't rush me. I whispered, "How can I ever repay all of this?" She shrugged. Just live better than those people. That's enough. With an updated resume and a reference letter from a former professor, I applied to Firebird Creative, a mid-sized marketing firm in Springfield. The interview took place in a sleek glass building. I wore a second-hand outfit Harper had gifted me, its collar pressed by Bethany's careful hands. The hiring manager, Kristen Boyd, was in her 40s, wore an Apple Watch, and spoke deliberately. After introductions, she looked directly at me. I noticed a gap in your last semester. Any reason for that? I did not. Because I needed to survive. I left a financially abusive environment, found housing, recovered academic data, and maintained my GPA. She was quiet for a few seconds, then nodded. We need people who can figure things out. There's a content assistant role, part-time at first, but could grow if you prove yourself. I signed the contract the next day. The job isn't glamorous. I sit in a corner with the smell of paper and the sound of nonstop typing, but I have my own desk, an ID badge, and a company email. The salary covers tuition, and now accessible from my reclaimed bank account with scholarship funds. I also started therapy, recommended by Kristen. Dr. Leah Hudson, calm voice, slightly deep, office decorated with gray-toned art and live plants. During the first session, I sat in silence for nearly 30 minutes. If you don't feel ready to talk, she said, we can just focus on today. I replied without looking at her. I just want to understand why I was too scared to be angry all those years. Dr. Hudson jotted something down. Maybe because you were taught that staying quiet was the only way not to be left behind. I looked up, not because she was right, but because no one had ever said that to me before. Mrs. Eleanor arranged a small apartment for me in the old family complex in Quincy, where her parents once lived back in the 60s. It's not quite a home, but it's a place to begin. The rent was symbolic, just enough so I wouldn't feel indebted. I moved in on a light, rainy afternoon. Harper helped carry boxes, and Aunt Bethany sent a lavender pot with a note. Water it 3 times a week, just like yourself. I placed the plant near the window and turned on the warm light. A breeze slipped through the sheer white curtains. It was March, and Illinois hadn't quite warmed up. Melting snow dotted the pavement and patches of grass, crushed under the weight of a long winter. I was folding a new tablecloth when I heard a knock. Savannah stepped inside, holding an envelope. Her ash-gray coat was dusted with chalk. She placed the envelope on the kitchen counter, saying nothing at first. I just got my first paycheck from the TA job, she said softly, and I've been saving for 6 months. Before I could ask, she nudged the envelope toward me. There's $6,000 inside, the amount Dad forced you to pay for me, remember? Her voice didn't beg. It didn't apologize, just calm, certain. You don't have to, I said. That's all behind us. She shook her head. No, it's not behind us until I make it right. We sat in silence. From the neighboring building, laughter from kids spilled into the open air. I used to think you were strong because you were talented, she murmured. Now I see you were strong because no one ever stood behind you. I didn't answer. I poured 2 cups of tea and slid one toward her. The final ruling came during the 3rd week of April. My parents were ordered to repay all the money they'd taken from my scholarship fund and compensate damages for unauthorized use of personal property. The judge also revoked their management rights over the family's estate and appointed a neutral overseer to ensure future finances for other family members remained transparent. Neither of them attended the hearing. Their attorney said they were considering appeal, but nothing had been filed. Word was, Dad sold his brand new sports car. Mom stopped going to her usual spa on Elm Street. I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated, just that things had fallen into place where they were meant to be. Our relationship stayed closed off. Mom once called Savannah to check in, but when she heard, if you've got something to say, tell Isabella, I'm not your messenger anymore, the line went quiet. Dad sent me a single-line email. If I hadn't raised you, you think you'd be where you are now? I never replied. I continued working at Firebird Creative, promoted from content assistant to full-time creative. Kristen, the woman who interviewed me, invited me to a networking event in late May. I was about to decline when I learned that Mrs. Eleanor had introduced me to a media partner in Chicago. They wanted to review my portfolio. The call came just as I was preparing my graduation thesis materials. They offered me a full-time position after the internship, at double my current salary. I didn't hesitate long. Not for the paycheck, but because, for once, I was chosen for my merit. Harper moved in with her boyfriend, leaving the apartment quieter than ever. Every Monday morning, I crossed the street to the local coffee shop, where a new barista named Elijah always remembered my order. No sugar, no ice, extra foam. Some mornings, when I looked extra tired, he'd leave a small pack of cinnamon biscuits on the lid. No words. One evening, while I stood at my door holding groceries, he came down the hall and handed me a folded paper. If you ever need someone to fix that leaky faucet or maybe just to have dinner with, call this number. No pressure, no charm act. I nodded, slipped the paper into my pocket, didn't call, but didn't throw it away either. My 24th birthday arrived like a spring breeze. I hosted a small dinner in my sunny kitchen, just a few guests, Harper, Savannah, Mrs. Eleanor, Kristen, and Elijah. Aunt Bethany sent homemade lasagna with a handwritten note. Younger, older, a little less afraid, a little more free. I lit 24 candles on a chocolate cake from the bakery down the block. Harper called out, "Make a wish, Bella!" I didn't close my eyes, didn't wish. Instead, I looked around the table. These people weren't family by blood, but they offered care without conditions. I leaned forward and blew out the candles. Applause rippled across the room. Amid the laughter, I didn't feel the need for anything else. No more approval, no more apologies, no more what ifs whispering in my mind. I glanced at the framed envelope Savannah once gave me, now hanging near my desk. Not for the money inside, but because it marked the moment she stood up on her own, just like I once did. No one saved anyone. But when strong enough, you can hold someone's hand without lowering yourself. If someone asked whether I forgave them, the answer would be, I don't need to. I've got something far more precious now, a life that's truly mine. Isabella's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes it's your own family that first teaches you to doubt yourself. But instead of breaking, she rose, exposed the truth, reclaimed control, and rebuilt everything from the ground up. In a world where silence is too often mistaken for respect, she chose to speak up, not for revenge, but for survival. That's the real definition of growing up. What do you think of Isabella's journey? Would you have the courage to do the same in her place? Leave your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more thought-provoking stories about family and life.